Committee. And I'm going to ask that items 2 through 6 and item 10 be put on consent without objection. However, we have speakers for 2 of those items, item 6 and number 10. Item number 6, Antonio Ramirez, if she is present, you'll have 1 minute. And then after that, item 10, Dan Gus, also 1 minute.
Thank you very much. This is, you said number 6?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. This is a motion by Martinez and Krikorian. Now, I'm ambivalent about this motion. It's, again, rather vague because most of these accommodations for lactating and breastfeeding services will be provided for criminal illegal wetbacks and their chango illegal umbilical cord changos, which you call anchor babies, who will be eventually gang indoctrinated. And by the way, how much money are we going to pay for this? And Marquise, I sleep on the streets because I stand on principle and the rule of law. So guess what? If my shopping cart is in the back, I'm paying for it. Why? Because I choose to stand on the rule of law. We are subsidizing these wetbacks and gangbangers. We don't subsidize our military, nor me. I'm not asking for a handout, but I do sleep on the streets. Therefore, Marquise, I believe that I am entitled to, you as a public servant ought to know that you're supposed to serve American citizens first. That is to provide services for our military and for legal law-abiding citizens. I am legal, not a wetback. Thank you.
And that item will pass on consent without objection. And item 10, Mr. Gus.
10, yeah. Item number 10, I'm concerned of your use of the word commercially bred dogs. I think the City Council needs to define what it means by commercially bred dogs. Do you mean like an AKC certified breeder of English Bulldogs, of Cocker Spaniels, or do you mean backyard breeders? Because they breed animals and they sell them for profit. As you know, there is a tire business that I keep referring to in Van Nuys, a tire repair business that the city gave permits to breed commercially pit bulls and chihuahuas. So when you're talking about a sunset clause on commercially bred animals, what do you mean by commercially? Are we talking about AKC type breeders? You know, the show dogs? Are you talking about commercially bred dogs, pit bulls and chihuahuas like at this tire business in Van Nuys? As you know, there was an appliance store that's breeding animals in South LA. Do they fall under this item also or not? Thank you.
Thank you. And I should note Mr. Rue has joined Mr. Harris Dawson and myself, and item 10 will pass on consent without objection. Let's go to item number 8.
Item number 8, Department of Animal Services report relative to low-income self-identification for free spay/neuter program eligibility.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before you today is a proposal about which the Department of Animal Services is very excited. The proposal seeks to modify the current method in which we verify low-income status to determine eligibility for our free spay-neuter program vouchers. Please note that we do not seek to change the threshold for eligibility, but merely to change the method in which applicants prove eligibility, which will quite likely make the program accessible to those LA City residents who are unable to furnish the current required documentation, such as undocumented individuals as well as the homeless. The current practice requires various forms of acceptable proof, such as tax records and proof of participation in other city-sanctioned low-income programs, such as those associated with the utility companies. We believe that there is a significant number of residents who cannot provide such proof, so they do not spay and neuter their pets based on costs. It is our expectation that we receive approval and instruction to work with the City Attorney's Office to develop an acceptable affidavit where residents can attest to their income and be legally held responsible for their claim. The department has considered some of the likely opposition to this proposal, like what if someone lies and we don't catch them and we end up spending money that somebody is not eligible for. And to that, the department says two things. The so-called take on this deal is currently right about $40. That's because currently anybody can receive the $30 discount coupon, so those who falsify the affidavit will be receiving $40 worth of services. And most importantly, the second point is that it is our sincere position that the monies expended by the city for this purpose would be money well spent, as the return on this investment will be more altered pets, which translates into less strays, less unwanted litters and animal surrenders, and less space-driven euthanasia. So we do ask for your support in this proposal, and I am available for questions, if there are any.
Do you have any sense of how many people could fraudulently ask for spay and neuter services that aren't low income but would sign a form that made it clear they were doing it under penalty of perjury or whatever?
No, I don't, but I can tell you that back in 2008, we used to not require this type of proof. We used to do more what I'm saying now, although what we're proposing now is something that we'd be working with the city attorney's office so that we can make sure that we can, legally be able to exercise some options if necessary. But back in 2008, we had about a little over 6,300 surgeries that we did for low income. Since we've changed it, in 2015, we have done a little over 3,100. So it has dropped significantly, and we believe it is because that there are a number of people who are not in the position to furnish the type of proof that we require.
So we've basically scared off a lot of the low-income individuals that we want to be out spaying and neutering their animals.
Yes, sir.
Questions, comments, members? Mr. Harris-Ost?
Quick question. We ever catch anybody cheating?
Well, right now, you can't cheat because we have to actually see the W-2 or whatever the legal.
So before?
Before, well, no, not that I am aware of.
So we've never caught anybody cheating?
We've never caught anybody cheating, but I will, that's not to say nobody ever cheated,
Absolutely.
Of course, but I'll say that this department, probably the controller would probably be more in a position to look for
Okay.
people cheating, because this department feels like, shame on you if you cheat, but better that your animal is altered.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Root?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so is the department going to come back to us with a list of protocols, or?
And I believe, working with the city attorney, a form which we don't have yet before us.
Right. We'd like to be able to work with the city attorney with the consultation of the controller so that we are all on the same page, that whatever we come up with is as legally binding as we can get it and meets muster for the controller's accountability concerns.
Excuse me, no shouting out from the back, please. We have a number of speakers from the public. I will give each person a minute, although I will let you finish your thought if you go past that minute. Martin Gomez, to be followed by Amy Gilbreth and Dan Gus.
Good morning. My name is Martin Gomez, and I'm the operations manager for the Lucy Beth Foundation. And we are strongly in favor of the low-income self-identification eligibility program for free spaying and neutering of pets through the approval of the signed affidavit. Every single operating day in which we serve animal welfare for the City of Los Angeles through spaying and neutering of own pets, at least 15 to 25% of these residents do not meet city contract requirements to prove low income for these surgeries, either because they are undocumented, homeless, or unaffiliated with federal government assistance. This means that we have turned away multiple families, and it saddens our hearts to see these pets leave without surgeries, when we know deep down inside that these families desperately need and would otherwise qualify for these supplemented services. Please give us the tools that we need. By approving this affidavit, not only will we be helping reduce the animals ending up in our shelters, but we will also be assisting in the No-Kill LA movement and helping our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Gilbreth.
Good morning, council members. Thank you for taking this item out of order for us this morning. I'm with the Found Animals Foundation, and we provide grant funding to several of the spay-neuter providers who are in the room today and some who aren't. That includes Fix Nation, the Spay-Neuter Project of Los Angeles, and Spay for LA. And what we hear from all of those organizations is that there is a willingness and a desire amongst folks who own pets to sterilize their pets. However, for folks who are low income, access is a big issue, either because of location or because of cost. If you make the services free and easy to access, people take advantage and sterilize their pets. Unfortunately, as you heard, since the system changed in 2008, it is much harder for residents to access free services, and so a lot of them are not able to or are not able to consistently. And so we hope that we can go back to a regime where it is available to the most vulnerable populations. I completely understand that there will be people who try to cheat the system. The unfortunate reality is that any system can be cheated if you work hard enough, but I trust that most Angelinos are honest and will do the right thing.
Thank you.
Hi, Daniel Goss. I'm writing an article right now for City Watch regarding this item, and the title will be Failure to Innovate Means That the Program is More Cheatable. To answer Councilmember Harris Dawson's question, I added to the council file yesterday the ultimate example of somebody cheating. There was a very low-income spay-neuter voucher, it's in your council file, issued in November of 2014, to the long-term live-in domestic partner of Brenda Barnett. In the council file, here's an email from Brenda Barnett who indicates that the recipient of the very low-income voucher and her lived together for 2+ years. So their combined household income for the very low-income discount was $223,422.40, and that's only Ms. Barnett's income. The recipient of the very low-income voucher lived in a household with an income of nearly $250,000. It's in your council file. You want to see how they cheat? Look at your GM. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is, if I can read the handwriting, John Saslon, or something like that. Sazloan? Sazloe? Sandoval? Hey, I got close. Followed by Sandy Sagastum and Neil Jackson.
Good morning, council members. My name is Jose Sandoval. I'm advocating for thousands of families who can't access spay-neuter vouchers. These are folks who are homeless. These are folks who are undocumented. That cannot prove any type of document stating their income. I work in the field, I work with outreach, and this is a daily thing that I come across every day with folks that, you know, we sort of look at the zip codes. Do you qualify for a free zip code? Do you qualify for whatever? They don't qualify, and we end up losing them. For us, it's time. Time is an essence for us because we want to make sure that these pets, these cats and dogs, are fixed before they start mating. And then once they mate, we have a bigger problem. So I urge you to support this. I urge you to close the loophole that we have here in the city of Los Angeles to give access to all Angelinos who live in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Sagustum, or you'll pronounce it right for me, please.
Oh, hi. I manage Spay for LA, which is a spay and neuter mobile clinic that operates under the city contract, and it provides services to 4 zip codes in South LA. Outside of those zip codes, we actually guide the people to go and get a city voucher, and we park outside the South LA shelter every Sunday. When we break down the requirements to get this voucher, about 80% of those actually don't have any documents to provide that they're low income. And unfortunately, because of our city contract only targets 4 zip codes, we cannot provide them service. The thing is, the other thing is that they could provide a utility bill that actually shows that they participate in a low-income program. Their utilities are included with their rent, so they cannot provide that as well. I think a lot of these people want to get their pets spay and neuter, but just the requirements they cannot meet. So if we're able to change that, I would think those 80% that are getting turned away will actually turn into spay and neuter services for us and for the other spay and neuter clinics that are here. Thank you.
So your number is really around 80%. That's
I think 80% of the people that talk to us that do not qualify under our zip codes, and guide them to get the vouchers. I think about 80% of those are unable to get a voucher, and they get turned away.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Neil Jackson. Oh, I'm sure that's wrong.
Noelle Jackson for SNP LA. As one of the city's largest providers of spay-neuter services, we can surely attest to the fact that the income documentation presents a large problem for our potential customers, and we would very much be in support of you removing that impediment and letting people self-identify as low income. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Shady, be followed by Mark Peralta.
Hi, my name is Sandra Shattuck, and I work for Home Dog LA. We're a small shelter intervention, and we're located at the North Central Animal Shelter. Every day, we sit there Wednesday through Sunday, and people are referred to us. We try to keep pets in their home. A big barrier is people are being canvassed, and they're getting citations. A lot of people don't know how to go about getting their pets spayed or neutered because they believe the income is a barrier, unaware that there are a lot of options, but that they do require work. I think by removing this barrier, you would see that there would be a lot more people willing and able to get their pets spayed or neutered, and that is, I believe, the number one thing that we should be working on as we look to lower our numbers at the animal shelter. I'm there every day. I walk people through the process. A lot of the free clinics that have less barriers have long waiting lists because there is a need, there is a desire, and if we could remove this and even give out vouchers while canvassing, it would be very impactful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, and I believe last speaker, unless any other cards are turned in, is Mark Peralta.
Good morning. Happy to be here. Thank you for prioritizing this. I also want to speak on behalf of this ordinance passing. I want to echo pretty much everything that you've heard from the spay and neuter providers that are up here. We do not, at our clinic in Northeast Valley, accept vouchers due to this fact because we don't, we feel it has been such a barrier in low-income areas in the Northeast Valley to get people into spay and neuter that we have just taken on the cost ourselves. So we have not utilized vouchers in the time that I've been the Best Friends executive director. There's a lot of red tape to go through for you to cheat for this to get a whole $40 to spay and neuter your pet as well, and then worst case scenario, you have a spayed and neutered pet. So it seems like a really good thing, and I really hope that we get this amendment passed because it will alleviate a lot of pressure on strays on the streets as well as our city shelters. So thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you. And I think we may have a couple other speakers on this subject, which we will let get in under the wire. Luz Maria Briseno and Alana Yanez. And I'm pretty sure I mangled your names too, so please state them when you come up.
In any microphone?
Any microphone.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Luz Maria Briseño. I have a talk show for the Hispanic community, and the reason why I'm here is because I'm talking on behalf of my listeners. We organize events. It's not only about nutrition, my show, but it's also organizing events for doggies to rescue them, to find them homes. But a lot of this necessity with Hispanics is that they don't have the way to prove that they are low income, and they need help to spay or neuter their doggies. And that's the reason why I'm here talking on behalf of my listeners, because we would love for you to help us to help the community.
Thank you very much.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. No questions for me?
No?
Okay.
And Alana Yanez.
Good evening, Commissioner. Council. My name is Alana Yanez, and I work for the Humane Society of the United States. I've also been a commissioner for LA Animal Services for the past 4 years. I manage a program called Pets for Life, and we provide free spay-neuter, free dog training, and free veterinary services to low-income communities. We do this by going door to door. We sign people up for spay-neuter, we build trusting relationships with them, and what we do is we don't leave a block till 90% of the pets are fixed. We use a free voucher program. We don't ask for any type of residency, proof of income, nothing. And we know you live in your zip code because we're at your door and we sign you up. We have a very successful program. We have a 90% completion rate and a 78% conversion rate. And we take information on every client that we meet. And what we learned is that 91% of the pets we meet in low-income communities are unaltered. And the primary reason is because of cost. And so we really urge you to pass this motion because you really can remove a huge barrier for many residents. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And that's our last speaker.
I filled out a card, Dr. Halligan. So see, there's glitches in the system. Do I get 5 minutes? It said Dr. Halligan. I know I filled one out. Right, Martin? You want me to fill? I could fill out another one.
You know, why don't we just have you fill out a card after the fact? You know what?
Did you find it?
I missed you. Well, no, I only have Martin Gomez under.
You don't have a Dr. Halligan there?
But we'll fill out a card afterwards, and we'll be happy to have you speak next.
Let me talk. Okay. I'm the Chief Veterinary Officer for the Lucy Pet Foundation. We have a contract with the City of Los Angeles, and we're providing spay and neuter. And I think what's important is making it easy, like everyone's saying, for people to take advantage of this. How many puppies do you think one pit bull dog has on average, or they can have? Any guesses?
In one litter or in the
In
lifetime?
one, when she has, yeah.
I'm guessing 6.
Like up to 15, you guys. I have euthanized animals for space when they've licked my hand and they've looked in my eye. So if we can get people that want to get their pets spayed and neutered, that's what it's all about. And it is going to save you money in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. And never mind on the card, by the way. I found it in public comment, so never mind. Any other questions or comments, members? If not, I would recommend that we, per the department's recommendation, ask the City Council to approve a change in the low-income verification procedure to determine eligibility for the free spay and neuter certificate program that allows self-identification of low-income status using a signed affidavit, and direct the department to work with the City Attorney's Office to develop an appropriate affidavit that allows the City of Los Angeles and the residents to declare their annual income to determine eligibility for the free spay and neuter certificate program. Without objection, that passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Item number 9.
Item 9, motion, Carretzel-Farrell, relative to instructing the Department of Animal Services to report within 45 days in regard to the dog licensing canvassing program, to include proposals for fine-tuning the program.
Good morning. Mark Salazar, Director of Field Operations, Los Angeles Animal Services. To my right, your left, is Lieutenant John Cessna. He oversees actually many things, including the North Central District, Field Services, and the Licensed Canvassing Program. To my left is Lieutenant Annette Ramirez. Again, she has multiple responsibilities, including supporting administration, supporting the Administrative Citation Enforcement Program, and also has been assisting with the Licensed Canvassing Program. This will be a brief report this morning. The canvassing program has been going through a little bit of growing pains this last year. There have been issues in terms of recruiting for canvassers and developing the best management for the program. As you're probably well aware, the department's been struggling with staffing for field services, and rotating through some of the supervisory management of the program has been a bit of a challenge, and we believe that we have found the best team right now to manage and enhance this program, and I'll share briefly on that. Both of these lieutenants are responsible for the improvements to the canvassing program. We are preparing a report that should be responsive to the council motion, and we will be able to present it in the time frame specified in the motion. This report will demonstrate how the program has improved dramatically this year in particular. ACOs, animal control officers, there were 4 of them that were in the program until May of last year. Then the part-time canvassers began to come in from the hiring process. We had between only 2 and 3 canvassers up until about November of last year. This was again in part to struggling through the recruitment process. When Lieutenant Cessna and Lieutenant Ramirez took over the program and worked with personnel, we started recruiting out at colleges. That made a huge difference. And as of March of this year, we had 10 part-time canvassers. The goal is to have 12, and we anticipate having 12 within maybe the next 30 days. With having a full canvassing part-time staff, we'll have much better information to provide you the success of the canvassing program. We really believe at this point it's developing into a smooth running program. Some statistics for you, just to give you a little bit of insight. From March to March of this year, the licensed canvassing program has generated 4,200 licenses. They've also issued 1,600 administrative citations. They only began issuing the administrative citations June of last year, and really the volume of that picked up later in the year as we began to have more part-time canvassers. To also further an example of the impact the licensed canvassers are having, especially with the administrative citation program, is just this last month, citywide, including animal control officers and canvassers, just about 4,000 administrative citations have been issued. So the canvassing program is responsible for 1,600 of those. Individual citations, just to give you some examples, approximately 1,400 administrative citations were issued for licensing. Approximately 1,700 were issued for spay-neuter. And the tremendous impact that staff are finding, both the canvassers and the field officers with the administrative citation program, is people are responding. And in many cases, same day when they get the citation, they show up at the shelter and get their animal licensed. We have visited in this last 12 months approximately 12 different zip codes. That includes multiple communities. Canvassers right now, they wear a white polo shirt that says licensed canvasser on it, carry forms and information. They also carry the administrative citations with them. They drive either their own personal car, which is what the recruitment process required, but if the city does have a vehicle available to them, we do make a city vehicle available to them. The way that they train right now is they train with an animal control officer who I'd also like to recognize, which is Robert Rios out of the North Central District. He spends part of his time working the field district and 3 of those days training and working side by side with the licensing canvassers. He has really made a tremendous impact on developing the canvassers. He's developed extensive forms, packets, easy to understand information for the community about the services the city offers and the department offers. So he's done a tremendous job. And then once he feels that they are at a level where they can be on their own, they rotate to any of the 7 days per week. And so we do have canvassers out there all week long. With that, that's just a brief overview, and again, we will return with a more comprehensive report. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to take those.
Have we looked at best practices for similar programs in other cities and looked at whether we can alter or modify our program to make it more effective?
Recently, we have not. This was probably pre-fire, the Da Vinci fire. We did send out some surveys regarding what other departments were doing as far as their licensing programs. Some of that, I believe, kind of impacted how we crafted the program initially, but recently, no.
Might not be the worst idea to take another look at other cities' successful programs and see if there's some things we can add. Do we have metrics to identify individuals' success, look at what we want each canvasser to be accomplishing and whether they're accomplishing that, et cetera?
Right now, it's the officer that's in charge and Lieutenant Cessna that oversees the canvassing program that review the work of the canvassers. They have identified development issues with individual canvassers and help them to become better at what they're doing, and certainly the areas that they're covering and the way that they're working with the public. So it's more of a direct hands-on developing with them. As far as the statistics go, we run the statistics monthly for canvassing.
So if one canvasser is doing twice as much as another canvasser, do you address the fact that somebody's not very good at producing the numbers?
Yes, and that's something that both of these lieutenants have also identified too when they came into the program, as probably some bad habits maybe kind of developed early on, and they needed to refine how those improvements could be made so that the canvassers are all working at a level par with each other.
Can I interrupt you?
Please.
Brenda Barnett, General Manager. We can't set quotas for the number of citations that they issue. We can set goals for how many houses they visit. And we do have to look at the fact that each interaction may take a different amount of time.
But if somebody's clearly ineffective at doing anything other than getting to the homes?
These are part-time temporary employees, and they can be let go.
So most of these are part-timers.
Right. The canvassers are, yes.
Do you have no full-time canvassers now?
No, we do have 3 officers that are assigned, animal control officers that are still assigned to the program, but they have been out on long-term leave since before May of last year.
We don't have any vacant positions, full-time positions approved for canvassers. We were allotted us an amount of money to use for part-time as needed help.
Okay. Questions or comments, members? If not, we will approve this motion and move the item to council. I don't think I have a card on 9 unless I missed it. I have one for Sandra Shady. Yes.
Hi, Sandra Shattuck again, Home Dog LA. The front line, when people come in for a citation, I see people go to the desk, and for whatever reason, they're late on their compliance. Sometimes they've completed everything, gotten the rabies vaccine, they're there to pay their $20 licensing fee, have gotten their dog fixed, but they're late. At that point, they are in compliance, but the notice has already been sent to the city attorney's office, and they're still going to be penalized, even though they're in compliance. I just ask that you guys review that portion of it, because the penalties are between $600 and $900 if you have a dog, 2 dogs. They're penalizing $100 for no rabies vaccine, $100 for no license, $100 for no spay-neuter compliance. And these people are already low income. That's already going to cover their rent. And I just ask that maybe the fine for being late is a flat $100, which is still a lot, but $600, $900 fines for low-income people who are in compliance but late is ridiculous.
I think that's a fair point, and I'm not sure if anyone is still here from the department. If not, oh, yeah.
Actually, it's an excellent question, and that's one of the wonderful attributes of the administrative citation program, is that it gives staff an opportunity to come alongside and work with the community to gain compliance, especially for licensed canvassing. Our field officers do the same. We give them a time frame to comply with the ordinance, and generally what we'll ask is the representative at the door will ask, how much time do you need? And if they say maybe 30 days, we may give them 6 weeks, we may give them even 60 days to comply. During that time frame, if they haven't complied, they can still contact the officer, and in many cases, most cases, we extend those time frames to give people ample opportunity. Really, the fines that go forward or the citations that are processed are very few that go through the actual fine and billing cycle. And those really are people that are just unresponsive to the department. In addition, the licensing canvassers carry a wealth of information to services and including voucher program. They'll even fill out an application at the door with the individual, bring it back, and then they'll send them out the voucher for the spay-neuter. Anything that we have available, anything that some of our wonderful groups that come alongside and support the department have, we provide that information to the resident and make sure that we give them every opportunity without fine.
Well, I think Ms. Shaddy and her group has had a different experience, maybe not in massive numbers, but maybe you could talk with her afterwards and see if we can find a way to provide some of that flexibility.
I actually have a question, Mr. Chair, because I understood the testimony to say if someone shows up voluntarily and says, oh, I'm late, I want to get this taken care of, they're still subject to a fine. And what you're talking about is canvassing, which I think is different than the testimony that we heard.
We're talking about the licensing fee itself, a late fee on the licensing.
Right.
Yeah, that would be something that would be handled through our licensing administration. And
That's what I'm talking
yeah.
about. So some people will come after the expiration
Right.
date, and that's when it's already been put in motion. And then the wonderful people at the city, they always try to help, but it's already been sent to city attorneys, and they can't do anything about it.
Well, if we can figure out a way, obviously you don't need to do that on the spot, but if we can figure out a way to reach past that, because I think ultimately the goal is compliance. It's not to catch a low-income person and fine them $600.
That's absolutely what the program
Those are really
is
for the people that tell us to pound sand, and there are some of those too. So,
understood.
so
Okay,
if we can work on that, that would be great. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Gus.
Hi, you have a major policies and procedures issue. County serves 500,000 fewer people and sells 150% more dog licenses. I know the answer, and I outlined it for you, and I outlined it for the controller. You're missing out on millions and millions of dollars each year. Case in point, Herb Wesson, the city council president, didn't pay his dog licenses for 3 years. When you finally caught up with him, he paid, and he paid late fees. Mitch Englander didn't pay his dog licensing fees for 3 years, and he wasn't charged late fees. So how can one council member pay late fees and another council member who's doing the same violation not pay late fees? You know something else that needs to be tweaked? Animal Services, you may not know this, they've been in the habit of issuing altered dog licenses to people whose dogs were intact. Why don't you ask them right now how many of these altered licenses were given to people whose dogs were intact and whether or not they ever provided the proof? They're not telling you the whole story, and I am.
Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, I would ask that we approve this motion and move the item to council without objection. Item number 1.
Item number 1, LA Fire Department report relative to position authorities for the restoration of Engine 69.
Good morning.
Good morning.
June Gibson with the Fire Department. The chair may recall that this item is a follow-up to a request that the department had requested as part of the 15-16 budget request. And this is consistent with the fire chief's highest priority, obviously, to restore resources to the department. So if, with the restoration of Engine 69, there still remains approximately 16 resources throughout the city that were closed as a result of the budget cuts that occurred in 11-12. So the fire chief's strategy, obviously, is to request the restoration of these resources on an incremental basis. So for the 15-16 budget, Engine 69 was approved, and the amount of funding that was provided was for the remaining quarter of the 15-16 fiscal year. And the reason that occurred was simultaneously the department was requesting grant funding to assist in the restoration of the resources. That did not come to pass. However, this year the department is continuing to request grant funding for restoration of other resources. And for this particular request, what we are proposing to the proposing to the committee and to the City Council is resolution authority for the 12 positions that are necessary in order to staff Engine 69. The consideration that the department takes in deciding the priorities for which engine companies are going to be restored in priority order are based on a series of risk factors in addition to an evaluation through our fire stat process of the call load. In this particular case, what was particularly critical to the department was consideration of the geographic isolation and the extended response times to bring resources into that particular district. The continuing road construction within the surrounding area, which compounds the access issues, high brush terrain requiring pre-deployment during red flag days, and the high concentration of large single-family dwellings, which are challenging to extinguish when fires erupt.
So is Fire Station 69 the highest priority of all the closed ones? How'd you pick this one?
Well, as I indicated, the department, does use a series of consideration of risk factors, and what I cited was critical to the department. That's not to say, obviously, that all of the remaining 16 engine companies and light forces that were closed in 11-12 are not a high priority, but obviously, there has to be some judgment call associated with the sworn operations staff within the department, and in addition to the fire stat statistics as well as the series of risk factors, there's some practical considerations that the sworn take into consideration, and that goes into a very extensive discussion amongst the sworn staff before the fire chief decides what the priorities are going to be.
And as far as I can tell, it's not necessarily one of the busier stations, but it's probably one that's the hardest for another station to back up in a timely fashion.
Right. The access issues within that particular area obviously was an important consideration to the department. And historically, when there have been fires within that area, it's been very, very tough for the department, obviously, to gain access and to control the situation as quickly as possible.
And the same with emergencies and heart attacks and whatever.
Absolutely. And I think, this discussion goes back to when Councilmember Rosendahl was on the City Council, as you're aware, Councilman Koretz, that has always been an issue that he was concerned about, and that concern continues with Councilmember Bonin.
And this is just for the last couple months of the fiscal year. So what happens during the regular budget cycle? I assume there'll be a push to do this on an ongoing basis. There's no great value to start it up for 2 months and then shut it down.
Right. As you know, resolution authorities are only approved through the end of the fiscal year, and so we did request continuation of these positions for next fiscal year. We have had our preliminary budget hearing with the mayor's office and the CAO, and there was a positive reaction to continuing these positions next fiscal year.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? If not, I would ask that we approve the Board of Fire Commissioners' request and pass that on to council without objection. Thank you. Item number 7.
Item 7, Personnel Department Report relative to the exemption of all positions of vocational worker, Class Code 3113, in the Civil Service pursuant to Charter Section 1001D1.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Vincent Cordero, Personnel Department. We are recommending that the committee approve the action taken by the Civil Service Commission to exempt all positions of vocational worker per Charter Section 1001D1 of the City Charter based on the positions requiring the services of unskilled laborers. The city recently created the Strategic Workforce Development Task Force and developed the Targeted Local Hire Working Group as part of a memorandum of understanding with the Coalition of City Unions. As part of the coalition agreement, Council approved a letter of agreement that commits the city to a goal of hiring 5,000 civilian employees by the end of fiscal year 17-18. The purpose of these programs is to develop a plan to provide job opportunities to the residents of the City of LA, specifically in underserved communities. As these programs are developed, it is anticipated that some participants will initially be hired into the city as vocational workers and employed in lieu of targeted civil service classifications. This exemption of all positions of voc workers will allow departments to fill these positions as they become available in a more expedited manner. We do ask for your support in this exemption, and we are available for any questions.
Have you gotten any pushback from labor on this issue?
No, we've been working with collaboratively in this effort.
Any other questions? If no questions or comments, I would ask that we approve this item without objection. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have one speaker on the item first. Ms. Ramirez.
I am adamantly opposed to these so-called whining little unskilled workers. Well, what they are requesting is preferential treatment. They are wetbacks and gangbangers. They want special treatment. We need skilled workers like military veterans who are homeless and living on the streets. They say provide job opportunities to undeserved areas, wetbacks, illegals, gangbangers. Again, why don't we provide jobs for the skilled laborers, military veterans, legal law-abiding citizens, senior citizens who I sleep on the streets next to out there every night and day. And you're going to provide jobs for these guys? Hell no. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. What you're committing is criminal. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I'm rather proud that we're doing this program. And I was a CETA youth program supervisor about 40 years ago, and we helped a lot of young people get their first jobs and move on towards a good career. Excuse me, no shouting out from the audience. So I would ask
thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair, but I think it's important to point out that veterans are actually a big part of the community that will have access to these jobs where they may have been had a lot of barriers without this. So I think in direct contradiction to testimony, this actually is a program that is more open to veterans than other programs might be.
Indeed. Thank you for pointing that out. And I would ask that we move this item forward without objection. And now we have two remaining general public comment cards, and then we will adjourn. Daniel Gus, not here. Antonia Ramirez.
Thank you. I come from the old school of hard knocks. I don't beg for anything. I earn it and I work for it like my father and my mother taught me in Mexico as well as the United States. I came here legally with the approval of the Department of Justice. We didn't swim the Rio Grande. I earned everything I get. I want nothing. I want no handouts, and I don't want any preferential treatment. I don't come here whining like a dog. I'm a hard-ass Mexican American. I'm proud. I also fight for legal law-abiding Americans they are military veterans, whom I have the greatest, deepest respect for, and I will die for. But not for these illegal wetbacks who came here and want special treatment. They ain't getting it from me, because I definitely would not go out of my way for them, period. I believe that a public servant should first and foremost take care of its American citizens, first and foremost. Military veterans, legal law-abiding citizens, senior citizens, and baby boomers who are out in the streets or on the verge to becoming homeless. That is your responsibility. You failed, Koretz. You have failed miserably.
Thank you. And that is our last item. And so with no other business on the agenda, we are adjourned.